Hey guys, don't forget to check out the Street Cop Training Conference 2023, April 23rd through the 28th, Nashville, Tennessee, the Gaylord at Opry. What a center, what a place. We have amazing speakers, amazing training, 5 of the most impactful days of your career. Check it out at streetcop.com. You do not want to miss out. There is a room code available for a discounted room. Sign up now at streetcop.com.
111, 110.
Training to be a street cop.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Street Cop Training Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Street Cop Training. My name is Dennis Benino, and today I have with me somebody who some of you may know from following him on TikTok and other social media platforms. He calls himself the Tourette's Cop, which as soon as I saw it, I was like, yo, we need to get this fucker on the show ASAP. If not today, yesterday. So, Craig, why don't you give us a little bit of background to who you are? I imagine some of your background has to do with your Tourette's Syndrome and how that came about and how you got into your endeavor of law enforcement and what triggers, because I'm noticing that you were having a little bit more of triggering effects. When you get nervous, does it happen more?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I figured that's you were calm until we went that's interesting, dude. I read body language. This one's pretty simple. You know, this one's not a hard one to figure out.
It's a dead giveaway when I'm nervous. Tics increase, so it's just like, well, fuck, I can't play it cool now.
Oh my God, that must be really amazing for your dating life.
It's my tics have never interfered with my dating life.
But nobody catches on to when you're nervous, because I know if I was dating somebody, there's a moment where I'm like, oh man, I'm getting close to something awesome happening. And what I mean by that is, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. They do pick up on like the subtle differences in my tics more than I do. Because like I live with it. I don't give a shit. They just kind of do their thing. But yeah, the people that I'm dating, they're just like, oh, you haven't ticked in X amount of minutes, which then causes me to tick because then now I'm thinking about it. And it's like, shut up.
Yo, I'm
let me enjoy being tick free.
I don't want to ask you the cliche questions you must get asked all the time. So I'm going to have some different shit for you as I go along. But who are you? And tell us about your life and your career.
Oh, geez. Well, I've been a police officer for 11 years now.
Wow.
And so Tourette Syndrome is a hereditary neurological disorder. For those of you that know, Tourette Syndrome causes involuntary vocalizations and motor tics. So, layman's terms, I make noises and move around. My brain tells me to do it. I don't control it. I can, to a point, prevent them or suppress them, but it does take a lot of focus. And sometimes it hurts. So I just choose not to. So Tourette syndrome and tic disorders are pretty common on my dad's side of the family. So when I started showing symptoms or when I started ticking at a young age, they're just like, yep, he's got Tourette syndrome. So I was never diagnosed as a kid. It was so prevalent and so common on my dad's side of the family. They didn't see any need for it. It didn't interfere with my schooling. It didn't interfere with my life in general. So they really didn't see a point to, take me to a neurologist and get me diagnosed for something that they're already aware of what it is. So growing up, I was a very shy kid. I was a quiet kid. So I was able to suppress my tics for the most part at school. I wanted what every kid wanted as a teenager, to be accepted, to fit in, to be quote unquote normal, So after school is when I would have, the outbursts and everything. Because at home I was safe. I felt safe. So I would, tick a lot more when I got home.
Were you like holding them in during the day and then just exploding them when you got home?
Yep, pretty much. It was just, I was able to, my tics were a lot less than what they are now. So at age 18 or so, I decided to make a really poor choice and start smoking cigarettes. And unknown to me at the time is my tics gradually got less and less and less to the point where you would hardly be able to tell that I had Tourette syndrome, just because I could pass off all my tics as, just slight movements or, just like shifting my shirt or something. And it wasn't until just a few years ago, I was like, I feel like I should get healthy. Shit's expensive. So I quit smoking. And I used like nicotine gum, Nicorette, or whatever the fuck it's called, to help curb the cravings. Working great. I was down to one piece a day. And then it got to the point where I was like, am I chewing this gum because it's helping? Or am I chewing it just for the sake of chewing gum? So I stopped. 3 days later, I remember this so vividly. 3 days after that last piece, I was down in Nebraska visiting some friends. And I woke up that morning and like the floodgates opened for my motor tics. My arm stretching tic was going crazy. It's just like all of my motor tics that I've had in the past, plus like new ones, just opened up and were going insane. By the end of the day, I was in so much pain. Like I was putting ice on a lot of my joints and everything because they weren't used to all that repetitive movement. And so I was a little concerned. I was like, I don't know what the hell is going on. But I just chalked it up to like, maybe I'm stressed, because through all those years of smoking, those 15 so years of smoking, I would still tic. Like I was still aware that I would tic, but it just wasn't noticeable to people. And when I would get stressed, I would tic more, but not to the extent that it was happening at that point. About 2 or 3 weeks after that, my verbal tics started coming back. So I started, I had a really loud coughing tic when they first came back. The sniffing tic that I have now, that's been pretty much constant the entire time. And just a bunch of other things. So at that point, I'm just like, okay, maybe I should go to a neurologist. So before my neurologist appointment, I ended up talking to my mom, and she's actually the one that made me think that it was because I quit smoking. Because she's like, do you think it has anything to do with you quitting smoking? And like, that's when like the light bulb finally popped off in my head. And it's like, you know what? Probably. And that's exactly what it was. Talking to the neurologist, Tourette syndrome affects people differently. Nicotine affects people differently. For me, it suppressed my tics for all those years. And I finally got out of my system. It's just, like I said, it just opened the floodgates for my tics. So when my tics came back, I was already a few years into my law enforcement career. So obviously I had to have a conversation with my chief and he's like, hey, new me. But the thing is, like, it never impacted my job at all. A lot of people with Tourette syndrome, myself included, when you're in times of intense focus. So whatever's happening in front of you, you're very, very focused on it. Your tics just kind of go away. Like in your mind, they get put on the back burner. So you're allowed to focus on what's happening in front of you. And that's what happened to me. So like anytime I was going to, a hop call or, anytime, unfortunately like a weapon had to be out or anything like that, tics took the back burner. I was able to focus on what was in front of me, and then as soon as that focus was gone, tics would come back. So it was good that I was able to still function as a police officer. But the social aspect of it, like, what are the other officers that I've worked with for years going to think or going to say? So I'd actually secluded myself for probably a good 2 or 3 weeks, didn't go to coffee with any of the county guys, just kind of like shut myself away from all the other deputies and officers because I was nervous about what they were going to say. And then when I kind of finally started getting more comfortable with myself, with my tics being back and all that, I'm just like, fuck it, like I can't hide this. There's no point. So I ended up meeting with a bunch of deputies one night and kind of let them know it's like, hey, this is what's going on. And everybody was so accepting. They're just like, that's fucked up. And I was like, yeah, it is. But they're nothing but accepting. They had awesome questions in regards to, Tourette syndrome and everything. But like the biggest thing in my mind is like, why was I so nervous and anxious about telling people? So then it was a few months after that. Do you know who Officer Daniels is? So Officer Daniels and I have been friends since Vine days. If you remember what Vine was back in
2 for the Vine.
Exactly. Yeah. He messaged me one day and he's like, you should start social media. Having Tourette syndrome and being a police officer is obviously not a very common thing. He thought it would do well on social media. And when he first brought it up, I was like, like, I'm cool with having Tourette syndrome, but literally showing the world, I just didn't think I was ready for it. But he told me to think about it. And so I did. So it was beginning of 2019 or so, I think January. I just weighed out all the pros and cons, and the pros far outweigh the cons, to be able to bring awareness and education about Tourette syndrome to the masses, to help humanize the badge, to show people like there's a person behind that uniform. We all have issues. We all overcome those issues. And then also just to show kids that you can still do things with Tourette syndrome. Like, it's not like a life sentence that your life's going to suck. So I decided to try it, and it blew up way more than I thought it would ever. Like, I was expecting maybe at most 5,000 followers. I surpassed that in the first day on Instagram. Like that, I was blown away. And then like the messages I would get from parents, just giving them hope for their children, because they may not know anybody with Tourette syndrome other than their kid. And they're worried. It was like, what kind of life is my kid going to have when he grows up? And, seeing somebody in the profession such as law enforcement, excelling and living life to the fullest with Tourette syndrome, just like huge sigh of relief for them. And that's pretty much the only reason why I continue doing this, is just to continue just spreading awareness on a disorder that's not really known, or just what the media portrays it for. Like, we just swear and give people the middle finger. No, that's not all what Tourette syndrome is. That's what the media portrays Tourette syndrome is, because that's what's considered funny. But yeah, it's just what the confidence and everything that I can give kids and parents and everything is the reason why I continue doing it. So I hope that long-winded answer.
That was great, dude. It was what a great response. And you continue to give the gift because we have a big following, and you're familiar with that. We've talked about it before we went live here.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody does have a kid who's saying, what am I going to do for my child who may be dealing with some kind of other debilitating issue? And you're an example of like, you can do anything you fucking want. Don't let this limit you.
Yep, exactly.
How do you perceive the humor around Tourette syndrome? Do you find it offensive? Because a lot of other influencers make light of it. And who am I? I mean, I haven't put a lot of thought into it, but I would think that'd be more of a coping mechanism for most people who have Tourette syndrome. So how do you feel about that being debilitated with and I don't say debilitated, but you have the diagnosis of Tourette syndrome?
Again, being a cop for 10 years, it takes a lot to offend me. So,
but you're from Minnesota, and everybody gets offended in Minnesota. We know that. Oh, he didn't curse Minnesota. I literally get the only time I get complaints when I teach are in Minnesota. Every single time.
No shit.
Every single time, and it's not even like it's not who you would. It's like a 43-year-old man with 18, 19 years in the job who like goes and files a complaint that I said fuck too much.
That's like common language for law enforcement.
I don't understand it, dude.
Like that's in my vocabulary.
Like read fucking nursery rhymes to everybody. Like,
exactly.
This is
give out hugs and blankets.
Craig, what's interesting is when I was in the academy, 3 academies, I always found the instructors who used foul language to be the most interesting. So I'm like, you know what? If I found it interesting, they always had my attention. They always seemed very, very down to earth. I'm going to employ that as well.
And I would actually have to agree with you on that. Because in Minnesota, you need a minimum 2 years college education for law enforcement. So I went to, yeah, but I mean, 2 years of partying. I mean, 2 years of learning law enforcement. But no, I found the teachers that did swear the most, that had the most, kind of interesting way of talking, always held my attention longer. And so I'd have to agree with you. And like, even for me, I tend to swear a lot. I can blame Tourette syndrome. I mean, it's a free pass, but
that's fucking funny, dude. That's pretty good.
Like, yeah. So I make light of Tourette syndrome. And it really doesn't bother me when other people do. I know there are a lot of other influencers or whatever the fuck you want to call them that have Tourette syndrome that, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. So like there's one side of it that there are people out there, especially on TikTok. I fucking hate TikTok, but also like it at the same time.
It's a valuable tool.
It's a weird relationship.
We get trolled nonstop on that shit. I mean, we get murdered. Actually, I'm talking Kenny Williams off the ledge lately. I'm like, Ken, please stop listening to the noise. You're doing great work. Just stop reading the fucking comments, dude. Who cares?
Exactly. Because like out of all the social media, I get shit on the most on TikTok.
Me too, dude. Me too.
I'm just like,
but we also get the most attention on TikTok,
Same, like I don't post as much on TikTok as I do on other platforms. And yet I have the biggest following on TikTok. I don't get it. Whatever, it works. But yeah, and the thing is, I mean, and what I do with all social media is I just don't engage the trolls. I don't have the energy for it. Like I barely have the energy to engage in the positive comments, let alone the negative ones. But the negative ones are always good for humor. Like I always just laugh, because people have the most ignorant things to say in regards to Tourette syndrome and me being in law enforcement. And like I can try to educate as many people as possible, but if they're not willing to listen and learn, there's no point. I can't educate everybody if they're not willing to learn.
Let me bring you back to what you said before about parents having hope for their kids after watching what you've done. So you had an option. You could have not shown up and given this gift to the world of hope, but you didn't choose that option. You chose to show up. And because you did, you got to live the one side of, wow, that's amazing. But again, with that territory comes the other side where you're talking and addressing people who are trolling, quote unquote. And the question you have to ask yourself is, are you listening consistently to the 50% of the people that you're actually helping? And that's listen, there are things that go on for us as a company, for me personally. And I just remember this as I have to read things and see people's comments. You've saved lives. You have over 10 police officers that you know of officially that have decided not to take their lives because of something you said. And I just run this in my head all the time, so as crazy as it may sound, human nature kind of makes us see the negative stuff. I don't know if that's some attribution to fight or flight, but what I want to remind everybody and yourself is like, let's see the great stuff that we're doing and see only that, and shun the non-believers and ignore the noise. And that's one of my biggest pushes as a law enforcement thought leader of folks, I'm going to tell you a story, Craig. You don't like this one, and I don't want to make this about me. It's your interview.
All good.
When I first became a cop in the town that I worked as my third job, I really had no interaction working in a school setting. So they used to hire us as off-duty cops to work in the schools for security. The two of us in the high schools, one in the middle school, and I think we had roving people in the elementary schools. This is, anyway. See my friend Joe, he's a teacher. Now, my high school shifted dramatically in the 6 or 7 years that I wasn't there. It had seemed like it got very rambunctious and very out of control. And there was almost like no law and order in this high school. So I said to my friend Joe, when I saw him, he was a teacher there, I said, how do you deal with these kids in this school? And he said, bro, there's a lot of good kids in this school. And I realized at that moment that I wasn't seeing the good kids. I was only seeing the bad kids. And he was right. There was only a handful of bad kids, and there was a really far majority of great kids in this school. And that was a big lesson learned for me of I wasn't even seeing the good shit. I was only seeing the bad shit. I don't know why I was defaulting to that. I don't know if it was just the cop thing or how we are as human beings, but that's a good lesson for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree. I mean, it's the same in law enforcement. A majority of the times we deal with the 1% of the bad people. So we kind of get this negative thought process going, which needs to stop because in all reality, we are only dealing with the 1% of bad people. There's still 99% of people out in, whatever town, county, jurisdiction that you work in that are good people. You never deal with them, so it's a mentality change that I think that needs to happen. And I think that would help, at least a lot of cops with becoming bitter or, more jaded than needs to be in regards to law enforcement. And yeah, I would completely agree. It's the same in social media too. If I look at all of the negative comments compared to the positive comments, negative comments are maybe 1%. The positive comments and messages far outweigh any of the negative. And I mean, after doing this for 3 years, I really don't give a shit about the negative comments. Like I said, I use them for humor. I use them to, kind of showcase that you can't educate everybody. Like if they had watched the video and like listened to the video, it would have answered their question, but they chose not to listen and just say whatever ignorant or uneducated thing they thought of in regards to Tourette syndrome and me being a police officer.
When you're working and maybe taking a report and you have tics that come out, do people ask you or they just kind of keep it to themselves? What's the reaction? Is it 50-50?
So yeah, about a third of people in whatever way they feel comfortable with will ask me what's wrong. I've had everything from, the fuck's wrong with you? Are you okay? Do you need some water? What's that noise? Things like that. And then there's another third of people that when you have a noticeable disability, like Tourette syndrome for me, I can tell when people are looking at me and want to ask a question, but are too embarrassed or too shy to ask that question. Like
you invite them in.
Well, there's just a certain look that people give. Like I know they want to say something, but they don't. So then I just, I'll say like it's Tourette syndrome. This is my normal.
Oh, that's cool, man.
So then they're just like, oh, okay. And then like it answers their question and then we move on. And then, then the last third literally say nothing. They either don't recognize it or see it, they don't care, or they're already aware of what I have and they have no reason to ask or do anything. I get all three.
When you were a kid, when did your peers first figure out that you had Tourette syndrome? What grade, what age? And I'm going to tell you something after that too.
So the first memory, I have shit memory. So the first memory that I can actually remember, I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. And me and my classmates were in the school library. And one of my classmates was looking at me and they said, "Why do you blink so much?" And that was one of my tics as a kid, and kind of one that I still have now is heavy blinking and like rapid blinking, whatever you want to call it. And that was a shock to me, because at that age, like I was told I had Tourette syndrome, but I had no idea what the fuck Tourette syndrome was. Like no idea. I was just aware I had something. So for someone to tell me like, "Why do you blink so much?" That was a shock to me. Like I didn't know I was blinking any different than anybody else. So then, of course, as an 8 or 9 year old, then I got self-conscious about it. So I started like watching how other people were blinking and like trying to like mimic just so I would, look or appear normal. And that was one of the first memories I've had in school in regards to my peers noticing my tics.
Did you ask your parents about it when you started to discover that you were different?
No, because, like I said, in my family, Tourette syndrome and tic disorders were very common. They were prevalent. We never made a big deal about it at home. Like we never talked about it other than like when my dad saw me like maybe ticking more, he would always try to tell me, it's like, "Hey, do something to take your mind off of it." Because for him, like my dad has a tic disorder. So for him, he was able to, focus his attention on something else and stop his tics. That never worked for me. So he would tell me that, and I always remember getting frustrated. And it's just like, it doesn't work for me. Like I can't do that. But that's about as far as the conversation would go. I really didn't give my tics or Tourette syndrome much thought because we never made it a big deal in the family.
I like the way that society is going with the empathy and compassion that has increased tremendously now for people with disabilities. And I don't want to say it's a disability, but diagnoses, whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's a disability. It's considered a disability.
I mean, I think there's probably nothing you can't do. But it's nice to see that kids are, through social media channels, being educated on what this is. And I'll tell you a story. My wife said to me, my oldest, she goes, he's got a kid in his class who has tics. So he said something to me one day and he said, so-and-so makes these noises. And I said, all right, here's the deal. I go, what are the other kids? There's a new kid who came to his class. This is this year. I said, how do the other kids treat him? And he goes, well, they don't really understand anything yet. They're kind of like, we kind of think he's weird and he's young. So I said, all right, here's the deal. Here's what you got to do. You go up to him tomorrow and you be his friend and make him your best friend and then invite him in with everybody else and make him feel normal. And I tried to explain everything like he can't help it. So you have to then go up and even though it feels weird, you make him feel good. Imagine if you were him. And that's what he did. And that kid has been accepted tremendously. He still makes noises and stuff. But I was happy awesome. that my kids are being raised very well. Their mother's amazing. But to try to guide him in that. And I'm the brother of a severely disabled older brother. I'm his guardian. And, I grew up, maybe I wasn't the one with disabilities, but I watched it. And I actually suffered quite a bit being his younger brother because, this was not a time where kids were being taught about what his issues were. Yeah, there was no acceptance. He was an outcast and he was called names nonstop. And I was his brother. And, probably got things to tell my therapist about this. But, so I have a lot of compassion and empathy, especially as a 40-year-old man in my life. But I think in some weird way, social media has done a very good job at showing acceptance of all human beings.
Yes, definitely. Because I still get messages from parents and everything about just the difficulties that their child is going through in school. Because children suck. Children are mean. Oof. There is a higher rate of kids being more accepting, and I love to hear that, but also at the same time, kids are little assholes.
I have 4 right now.
Yeah, so like I understand it, and then that's that's just one of the issues that kids with Tourette syndrome go through is we just want to be treated like everybody else. We just want to be accepted. We want to be,
I love it,
normal, but in this day and age, what the hell is normal? Like what you see and hear from me, this is my normal. Just because it's not somebody else's normal doesn't mean it's not mine. So I'll live my normal. Fuck what anybody else thinks. I'm gonna live my life, and I know that's kind of a tough concept to grasp for younger kids. But I know it is something that they do learn, and there are some people out there that will never accept having Tourette syndrome or having tics, and that's just the way it is. Tourette syndrome affects everybody differently because everybody is different. There are people that will be able to accept their tics and, overcome it and just be cool with it. And there's some people that won't. It's just kind of is what it is at that point. And doesn't matter how much you push for acceptance and understanding and everything. It's just some people are going to be, more shy or, just more self-conscious about it because that's just something they hate about themselves. It's unfortunate, but that's just what it is at that point.
And the cool thing that's on the other side of it, life is beautiful. People are amazing, right?
Exactly. And then that's the thing. I was like, I've only met a handful of people with Tourette syndrome. Actually, I've only met one person while working that had tics, and he tried explaining himself, and I was like, dude, like saying, you don't need to explain yourself. Like, I completely understand what's going on. Like, you're good. And you could watch his anxiety level just drop dramatically. To have a police officer, to have somebody that understands what's going on and what he's going through. I mean, like that's what I love. And I think even like it's just helped me become more patient with just disabilities in general too, just because I have to be patient with myself at times. And I've noticed just my patience with other disabilities and things like that. I've noticed that I do maybe offer a little bit more compassion, a little bit more empathy and understanding when it comes to, dealing with other people with disabilities.
What's one of the biggest frustrations you have with having Tourette syndrome?
Not being able to shut the fuck up and just have a nice quiet evening. I
guess that kind of leads into my second question of, are you constantly trying to find things to calm your tics down? You constantly trying to explore other things? Have you tried things like, and I'm just saying in general, I'm just curious, like meditation, have you tried any of that stuff? What does calm it down? Do you constantly look for different things?
Do I constantly look for different things? No, I'm too lazy for that. I got other things to do. But no, like I do have hobbies and things like that. And
well, you're in Minnesota, so I'm guessing you fish.
I find fishing boring.
Whoa, dude, you're gonna get thrown out of that fucking state.
I know, I don't say it very often, especially around here. Oof. But no, like so like growing up, we did a lot of pan fishing, like sunfish, crappies, things like that. I enjoy that. That's fun. Now that I'm adult, everybody that I go fishing with wants to fish for walleye, fish for bass. I find that shit so boring. They're trolling or they're casting, and I'm just like, after like 5 minutes, I'm just like, okay, done. Mm-hmm. And then I'll just set my pole down and start drinking. I can't do it. And just with Tourette syndrome, really don't deer hunt either, just because
the noise
can't sneak up on anything. So I do a lot of waterfowl hunting, like duck and goose hunting. That's one of my passions in the fall and the spring is just waterfowl hunting. You can be with friends. You don't need to be quiet. You can shoot more than once. So like I'm all about that lifestyle. So like I had said earlier, when I'm focused on something, my tics do decrease. So like I've tried finding things. I did an adult paint by numbers, which I actually did enjoy, but I also have ADHD. And so about 15, 20 minutes of that, I was like, done. I got to get up and do something else. Like I've completely got bored of it. But when I am doing the paint by numbers, tick free, like not even a noise. And it's not something that I personally pick up on because I'm focused on what's in front of me. I'm focused on, filling in the correct number with paint and things like that. It's my roommate or his girlfriend or someone that I'm with that will tell me, it's like, you didn't make a single noise in the last 30 minutes. So it's not something that I necessarily pick up on, but I still know the calmness and tranquility of finally not moving around all the time and making noises. I'm just content with what's in front of me. But yeah, ADHD is a motherfucker. I really can't, sit and do something for very long. So like the same thing with reading, like even playing video games for me, like that does help calm my tics, but I even can't play video games for that long. Like even then I can't like zone in for very long.
I wonder if now, dude, I have extreme ADHD, right? And to me, it's a blessing. I mean, I think that when you get this,
I love it.
Oh, brother. Like, see, society makes you think that it's some kind of curse. And when I hear people medicate their children for this so they could fit into the fucking school system, I like want to punch them square in the fucking face because the school system's a disaster. Everybody knows that. It's a fucking joke. and you want your kids to conform like every other little drone that they stick in line and make them, so I always tell my wife, hey, look, if there's a point where this thing's really failing these kids, I'm down for alternative means of education. I don't think you need, there's a saying and I love it. It goes, A students work for D students. Right. So there's a reason why we were D students and C students, because we were bored and way ahead of what the hell was being taught in class. And I believe that, you know what I mean? Anyway. But one thing that I found very interesting in my life that has kept me very calm, which I may just offer to you, do what you want with it, is I do a meditation practice. And people tend to go into a meditation practice saying, I can't do this, I can't focus, da-da-da. You may even have more of some kind of explanations of, well, I can't control my tics that long. But if you listen to the episode of this podcast with Emily Fletcher, who wrote the book called Stress Less, Accomplish More, and I don't know if you've tried any of that. I wonder if you get back to me in like a couple months and you're like, you know what, dude, it fucking worked. And I got very peaceful, because what it does is it calms the mind and body down. And brother, nobody's got more ADHD than me. So essentially when I'm doing my meditation practice, I'm shelving ideas and coming back to them later. So I'm just storing them.
Okay.
And then I'm going back to my mantra, which is almost like this orb where you want to get to this calmness, and you're going to this thing called the bliss field where your body is just constantly relaxed. So it's a constant check of your body. Where am I at? What am I feeling? And by the way, it takes time to get comfortable. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks, but if you stay at it,
I can imagine.
So my body is in a constant state of calm. I was watching something.
And mine is not.
yeah. But my point is like, that might be, if it's what you're looking for, and I could be completely wrong. It may not be anything for you, but you might find some comfort in it.
Yeah. And I've had some other people mention doing meditation, and, it has been something that I've thought about, but it's, also in the back of my mind, it's like, there's no way in hell I'm gonna be able to sit still and shut my mind off for any.
Everybody thinks that, but when you just like, no way, I will be able to get to the gym every day or twice a day. And then all of a sudden you're fucking doing it. Right.
Right.
So, dude, I thought about this on the way in today, and I'm constantly trying to get my mind to have good answers to questions that I foresee I'll be asked in the future. And one of those things is, what is one of the most important things you would tell people in life to have success? And the answer is to recognize excuses from other people and from yourself. And people perceive it as a, I don't know, not thoughtful or sensitive way, but I'm not your guy if you're looking for thoughtful and sensitive. But recognizing excuses, it may sound harsh, but I hear you when you're saying, I can't, I won't, especially for a guy like you, it should be, you know what? Maybe I can. Maybe I will.
Right.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. And that, like I said, that was my mentality, just probably even last year. But lately it's been shifting to, what is it going to hurt to try? Like I'm always willing to try things, and it's just, you got to get over your own mental block about things.
Willing. And you already said, dude, that would be I told people if I wrote an autobiography, it'd be called willing, because I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be the person in a very macro sense that I intend on being. Right.
And that's exactly kind of what I want to just like push, but what I talk about in my social media with kids that have Tourette syndrome. Like, why limit yourself to certain things because of your tics? The biggest thing is like, don't let your tics interfere or get in the way of you trying new things. People, they always make excuses like, oh, I don't do that because, my tics. It's like, well, how do you know? How do you know you won't excel at that, or your tics will be fine because of that? They just kind of lay that out as a blanket excuse. And I'm telling them, it's like, no, like, fuck that. Like, why not try it? At least you can say you tried it before you can say, oh, yep, actually my tics do kind of fuck with that. Like, I won't be doing that anymore. Okay, well, at least you tried. At least you know now, and not just, just make an excuse of blaming your tics. Like for me, the only thing that I won't do because of Tourette syndrome is go to a movie theater. Can I go to a movie theater? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't want to be that rude person sitting in the back making noises during the entire fucking movie. Like that's just a personal choice for me. You know, and that's just kind of the always the thing that I want to push is just don't let your tics interfere or get in the way of trying new things. I mean, fuck, if I had done that, I probably would have never been a cop. I would have tried everything that I've tried.
I actually want you to come to my class in August and just constantly interrupt the shit out of me.
I can do that. I'll also swear
so
and
like
give people the middle finger. And I was like, oh, sorry, Tourette Syndrome. And then just constantly flip people off.
Yeah, that's cool. That'd be a blast, bro. Like, honestly, in my class, that'd be a fucking good time. I'm expecting you to be there, bro. You better take a fucking vacation day. What's the date? August?
Yeah.
What's the date?
What is
August 8th? Forest Lake, right? So if you want to take that class and
that's a Monday.
Right? Yeah, it's a month. Come on, bro. You're coming. Forest Lake, Minnesota, 2022.
I'd be all for that.
Yeah, no, we're gonna proactive patrol. It's gonna be, dude. It's gonna be a game changer too. By the way, it's a real fucking powerful class. And then we'll do lunch, and as long as you don't like throw a sandwich at me or some shit.
You know, and that's what I just side shoot. People always ask, like, how difficult is it eating? And most of the time it's fine. You know, I can hold off I have, as you've seen probably during this entire interview, I have an arm stretching tic.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it.
And yeah, me too. But no, most of the time, I can hold off on those. I actually have a premonitory urge. So like I can feel the tic building before it happens. Like it kind of feels like an anxious feeling. So like I can feel when certain tics are coming on. So like I can put my sandwich down, I can put my fork down, or I can put the glass of water down, get the tic out of the way, and then continue eating. But there are some days that I'm extra ticky where I just have to be careful because I'll, get whatever I'm eating, just get a forkful and then boom, arm stretching tic, fork and food everywhere. But again, those are, far and in between. I mean, for the most part, I can eat and drink normally, just with noises in between.
My last question for you was already answered, but I think we deserves a reiteration of it. And it was, what's the one message you want to deliver to the world? And I want to remind you what that message was, because you answered before, is that don't let something that you think is your crutch become your crutch.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest thing, just be confident in yourself or find that confidence. Because more often than not, your thought of what's stopping you, most people don't care about. Like when I go to training or, when I'm with a group of people, I'm more conscious of my tics than other people are because I feel like I'm bothering people or I feel like people are getting annoyed by it. And then when I talk to those people, or they'll even bring up, there's like, I kind of forgot that you had Tourette syndrome. They've gotten so used to it that they don't even hear the tics anymore, which blows me away because I'm just like, bullshit. These are loud. These are annoying. Like you can hear them. But I mean, from multiple people and multiple different friends groups and training areas, that's the thing. It's just like they don't hear it anymore because it's not an issue. I'm making it an issue, and that's the thing. Is it's like don't make your tics an issue. Go move past that. And I guess that's kind of the biggest thing is this: don't let Tourette's, don't let tics just get in the way of anything. Go and live life. Find out what you can and can't do. Don't have anything get in the way.
And I secretly want to hang out with you. As fucking weird as that may seem. Yeah, the stranger you are, the more I want to be your friend.
Right? It's fun.
You know why? Because I'm like, I don't want vanilla, fucking boring ass basic friends. I want friends that are like I love hanging out with people who are obviously like, so on top of you being awesome, Josh Fidel, who is a police officer here in New Jersey, was shot in the head. And he's obviously, if you see him, he walks, he's kind of locked up on on one whole side of his body, and he has atrophy. And I love the guy so much. Like I fucking love him. And it's even better like being with him because I feel so honored that this dude who people might see and have a preconceived notion of what is possibly wrong with this guy, not realizing that he's probably one of those heroic human beings like ever. I know there's just something I love about the fact that he looks different that makes me want to hang out with him more and more and more and more. And, you know, on the surface, he doesn't look as different until you see him walk. And then he's got the greatest sense of humor about the whole thing. I remember the first time I drank with him, I'm like, bro, you could barely fucking walk and you're going to start drinking. Like, I'm going to be fucking, I'm going to have to hold you the whole goddamn time. Yeah. He's just got such a wonderful sense of humor. He's got such a lightheartedness for the cards that he was dealt. And it's very, I don't know, there's probably more to it as I dig into it that I've just, maybe I admire you more than I admire myself, dude. I have admiration for a guy like you and a guy like Josh. I find you guys very admirable.
Well, and my biggest thing is like, why get down about something you can't control? You know, like I can't control my tics. Like they are what they are. They're part of me. They're part of my life. Why be depressed about it? I can't change it. I can't, like, there's nothing that I can do that can change my tics. And I'm not willing to go on medication just because fuck that. Like, I don't do meds, you know, and until they actually start interfering with my day-to-day life, I don't see a need to take medication, you know? So like, I just kind of look at it as like, it is what it is. It's out of my control. Just live life, love life.
Bro, promise me now that you're coming to class in August.
I promise that I'll look into it.
You son of a bitch.
Like I said, I don't even know where I'm going to be at.
Bro, listen to me. You're this is an Italian gift from an Italian guy from New Jersey. Have you seen the fucking Godfather, dude? Do you know what it's like to not accept the gift? No, seriously, I'm joking around, but I really like you to get there, dude. It's on me. I'd love to have you there and in person. And I'm going to tell people we're friends, just so you're clear.
No, that's fine. I'm going to do the exact same thing.
Sweet. You can consider me one of your friends and you can reach out to me anytime you need, or you want to do something. Let me know, man. Like, you know, I'm fucking down.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be up for it. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, dude. Well, listen, I have to get the fuck out of here because I have fucked my calendar up today tremendously. As you can see that I asked you to do this an hour earlier than was already expected. And then on top of that, I realized I fucked another thing up. So I've got all sorts of shit going on that I fucked up today.
Always fun, isn't it?
It's part of the deal of doing something like this and at the level it's at. And I think people have a hard time conceptualizing how busy I actually am.
There's not enough hours in the day.
I think I don't like those old school sayings. I'm like, maybe I just need a personal assistant. That might be the fucking solution, right? Maybe I just need to be a little more organized. There's enough hours in the day. I'm just a fucking mess. Well, I'm an artist, dude, right? I'm an artist. I'm an entrepreneur. I am ADHD and I'm all over the fucking place. And if you get on a topic that I find interesting, I'm gone. You got to rope me back in.
Well, exactly. And like, people are always telling me like with ADHD, so just write it down. You won't forget. I'm just like, bullshit. Like, I will forget. I wrote it down the second I wrote it down. And then I will forget where I put wherever I wrote that down. Like, you know, like,
come back to you in like 2 weeks.
It will, or I will finally find where I wrote it down in. It's like, oh shit, forgot that.
Bro, I have whiteboards here with thousands of notes on them and notes everywhere. And you would think you were like going into the layer of a complete psychopath. And people like, what is this? And I'm like, these are my thoughts. Welcome to my brain.
Right. Well, because I mean, the biggest thing, very, very common with ADHD, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So if you don't write it down somewhere where you don't see it, it doesn't exist.
I took a Tony Robbins course and I learned through the training. I don't want to go into details of how I felt about the training versus what it cost. But one thing I learned was to dump my thoughts onto paper, get it out of your head constantly. So you can start have some more clear thinking. And I have my color notes app on my phone is ridiculous. People think I'm texting during class. I'm teaching 175 people in a classroom. And I'm having 19 thoughts on how to improve the company. What's a better brake fluid for my car? And I'm like, let me fucking write that down. And I'm like, guys, I'm not texting and being rude. I literally have to get these thoughts down out of my brain so I don't lose them forever.
Right. And see, that's what I need to get better at. I will think about, because I work overnights. So, you know, early in the morning, there's not a lot going on. I have these thoughts. I'm just like, oh, this would be a good idea for a video. Or, yeah, I need to get a hold of this person. Do I write it down? No. I'm still like under the illusion that I'm going to remember it. And I remember that I was supposed to remember something, but I don't remember what it was supposed to be. So I'm getting better. Like I'm finally using like Google Calendar to like write shit down.
Oh, I fucking hate Google Calendar.
Like this event, like I had to put that in Google Calendar just so it would remind me the day before that I have something going on. Otherwise, I forget.
I have to end it. I have to leave. It was a pleasure, brother. And if you want to do this again, please let me know, man. I'm pumped to meet you in person, bro. Hopefully, maybe if you have the time, you get a little more time, then come to Nashville, bro. Check out our conference. It's fucking badass.
Oh, hell yeah.
You have a great time, bro.
Absolutely.
And they got alcohol there. And
perfect.
All right, bro.
All right.
Great meeting you, dude.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It was a good time.
Brother. All right, Craig, stay safe out there, bro.
Yeah, you too. Take care.